Well, this is the fifth movie. Can you believe that when you did the first one, did you think there would even be a second one?
At 62, Johnny Depp stands at a point in life few ever imagined for him. The fame, the fortune, the iconic roles, none of it explains the quiet, heavy truth he carries now.
Stunning verdict in Johnny Depp's high-profile defamation lawsuit against his ex-wife, Amber Heard. A Virginia jury has largely sided with the Pirates of the Caribbean star.
Behind the headlines is a chain of choices, betrayals and hidden wounds that turned victory into something far more painful. This isn't about rumors, but about the real cost of a life lived under bright lights. What happened to Johnny Depp that makes his story at this age truly heartbreaking? The roots of a storm. Johnny Depp's story begins far from Hollywood's glittering escape. Born on June 9, 1963, in Owensboro, Kentucky, he grew up in a working-class household marked by tension, financial struggle, and emotional volatility. His father, John Christopher Depp Sr., worked long hours as an engineer, while his mother, Betty Sue Palmer, balanced fierce love with overwhelming stress. Their home was filled with arguments, cigarette smoke, and unspoken disappointment, an environment where stability felt almost imaginary. Constant upheaval defined Johnny's early life. His family moved more than 20 times, leaving him unable to form lasting friendships or find a true sense of home. Each move meant another loss, another attempt to adapt. Winters were harsh, food was often scarce, and the refrigerator's hum became a reminder of how close they lived to the edge. Even as a child, Johnny understood that survival was something earned, not guaranteed. The greatest blow came at 15. One morning, he discovered his father had quietly walked out, coffee still warm on the table. The sudden abandonment shattered what little sense of consistency he had left. Forced to watch his mother carry the weight of 4 children alone, Johnny learned that love could hurt deeply even without violence. He saw her laughter fade into exhaustion, teaching him early lessons about endurance and emotional fragility. Yet amid the chaos, a single gift became his lifeline, a battered guitar his mother gave him at 12. For Johnny, music became a refuge. Each chord was a release, a way to shape pain into something meaningful. Through music, he found a voice strong enough to rise above the noise of his fractured childhood. By 16, the storms at home were too much. With $35 and his guitar, Johnny boarded a bus and left Kentucky behind, not chasing success, but escaping the ruins of a life too heavy for a teenager. Florida became his proving ground. Playing late-night gigs in sweaty garages and smoky bars, he and his band scraped together money for gas, cheap meals, and hope. Nights were cold, food was limited, and rejection was constant. But the fire to create never dimmed. At 20, Johnny pushed further and moved to Los Angeles. But the city offered no warm welcome. He bounced between tiny rentals, half-empty clubs, and odd jobs just to stay afloat. Rent was relentless. Dreams felt distant, and LA devoured hopeful artists without mercy. Still, the struggle hardened him, giving him a deeper understanding of fame's seductive promise and its shadow of loneliness. Everything shifted through a chance introduction to actor Nicolas Cage. Cage encouraged him to try acting, a suggestion Johnny initially dismissed. But with music offering little stability, he leaped. His small role in A Nightmare on Elm Street became his first real break, an unexpected doorway into a world he never imagined entering. Acting quickly became more than a job. It became a new language, a way to channel his pain into characters that felt real and raw. The quiet boy from Kentucky discovered that emotion, his truest inheritance, was his greatest strength. Yet, with the opportunity came new pressures, new expectations, and a spotlight far brighter than any stage he had ever stood on. As Johnny's acting career began to unfold, the transformation was undeniable. But the path ahead was steep. Early success brought attention, and attention brought the slow, insistent hunger of fame. The more he rose, the more he risked losing parts of himself he had spent years trying to build. Hollywood offered opportunity, but also shadows. Shadows that would eventually test everything he believed in. Johnny Depp's rise began in silence, born from hardship, resilience, and the restless search for meaning. The storms of his early life shaped him long before the world ever knew his name, and the challenges waiting ahead would prove that even the brightest spotlight could cast the darkest shadow. The storms of his early life shaped him long before the world ever knew his name, hinting that the next chapter of his journey would demand even more from him than the one before. From music to movies. Johnny Depp's transition from aspiring musician to celebrated actor was as unexpected as it was transformative. Initially focused on a music career, he spent his youth chasing gigs and dreams with little success. But an encounter with a fellow performer and a nudge into acting unlocked a new path, one that allowed him to channel his emotions differently. This change challenged him to adapt and revealed depths of talent waiting to be discovered. His debut in 1984's A Nightmare on Elm Street was small but significant, taking a part that brought him onto the set and into an industry he had never imagined joining. Depp wasn't formally trained. Acting was a new terrain where vulnerability became strength, and pawn was sculpted into performance. The shift from strumming guitar chords in dive bars to delivering lines under hot studio lights was as much about survival as it was about artistic expression. Soon after, he landed a role on the television series 21 Jump Street, which launched him into teenage idol status by 1987. To fans, he was perfection, cool, charismatic, and everywhere. But beneath the surface, Depp wrestled with feeling like a product rather than an artist. The relentless demands of fame clashed with his inner need for authenticity, and he quietly struggled with the pressure of being more image than person. The limitations of being a famous person in the mainstream made him look for roles that would enable him to express himself in his own way. The year 1990 marked the beginning of a new era for him with the partnership he formed with the director Tim Burton. The part of Edward Scissorhands gave Johnny Depp a character that was like his own isolation and fragility. This part not only gives him a defining moment in his career, it also opens up a new way of linking his suffering to the universe, and art to his suffering. His performances during the 1990s, particularly in Ed Wood and Sleepy Hollow, were also responsible for this image of a serious actor who was actually giving emotional depth and complexity to his characters. He was not interested in the box office numbers or the stardom. He was on a quest for the truth in the movie. This was the reason why the audience was willing to accept his authenticity, and why he began to gradually establish himself as the romantic rebel of Hollywood and the misunderstood genius. This period of artistic development ran parallel to the public's increasing interest in Depp's off-screen character, the mysterious, wavering, and deeply secretive person. However, at the same time his career flourished, the pressures behind the scenes also increased. The bright lights not only revealed his acting, but also the fissures that were appearing as a result of success and personal challenges. Once Depp took the part of Captain Jack Sparrow in 2003, it looked like his career had attained an unparalleled height. The bet on this nonconformist, flamboyant pirate turned out to be a stunning success, thus redefining what it meant to be a star on the big screen. Yet, when the film series brought fame and wealth, it also drained him and gave him a feeling of being trapped by the very character that had made him a popular name. Though his artistic talents dazzled millions, the personal costs of this transformation were quietly mounting, foreshadowing challenges yet to come. The pinnacle of stardom. By the late 2000s, Johnny Depp had ascended to the summit of Hollywood's elite. He was no longer just a talented actor, but one of the highest-paid performers in the world, with hits like Alice in Wonderland, crossing the billion-dollar mark. His earnings soared to over $55 million per film, and his influence stretched across continents. At first glance, Depp's life seemed the embodiment of success. Lavish mansions dotted his portfolio, including estates in Los Angeles, a sprawling French village, and a private island in the Bahamas. A 156-foot yacht named after his family epitomized his extravagant lifestyle, alongside a staff of more than 40 people and frequent private jet travel. To outsiders, these were signs of having made it, the ultimate trophies of fame and fortune. Yet behind this gleaming exterior, a different story whispered. The boy who had once fled with $35 and a guitar found himself surrounded not by music, but by accountants, lawyers, and managers whose language was numbers, contracts, and risk. The spark of creative passion dimmed as the pressures of maintaining a vast empire and public image mounted. The music, that early refuge, felt further and further away. Depp himself admitted to trusting people too deeply and trusting success too recklessly. With over $2 million spent monthly just to uphold his lifestyle, the financial strain was enormous, unnoticed by many. While the headlines focused on his films, extravagant spending, including tens of thousands on wine and jet rentals, masked a growing loneliness, a desperate attempt to fill a hollow echo within. The cracks beneath the surface widened. His net worth, once estimated at $650 million, began to erode through lawsuits and management disputes. Public reports exposed hundreds of millions spent, fortunes lost, and an empire slowly unraveling. By the late 2010s, the artist known for disappearing into characters now had to confront himself in the harshest role imaginable, defendant of his own choices. Hollywood's once warm embrace cooled swiftly. Projects failed, phone calls stopped, and the spotlight shifted away. Depp learned the bitter truth that the same hands applauding at the peak will be the first to let go when a star falls. This wasn't bitterness, but the quiet recognition of fame's fleeting loyalty, a lesson harshly taught but deeply understood. The journey from stardom's height toward darkness revealed not only the fragility of fame, but the strength of the human spirit, preparing to endure what many never survive. Cracks beneath the surface. At the height of Johnny Depp's career, the bright lights hid a reality quietly falling apart. Behind the estates and massive paychecks, he faced growing mistrust and financial chaos. His personal and professional worlds collided, revealing cracks no fame could cover. Trust, once his strength, became his greatest weakness. Depp admitted he relied too heavily on managers, advisors, and success itself. That misplaced faith let his fortune drain rapidly, with spending soaring to more than $2 million a month. Private jets, enormous wine bills, and a staff of 40 kept an unsustainable lifestyle standing on collapsing ground. The financial pressure was huge, but the public hardly noticed it during his golden period. Newspapers loudly applauded the artist and his profits, while his fortune was silently seeping away. The extravagant comforts that were once the bearers of victory had turned into the means of quieting the siren of a lonely heart, growing louder each day. There were moments when Johnny, surrounded by art and guitars, stood alone in a mansion listening to the rain tapping the windows, and realized he had everything except himself. Reports of mismanagement soon led to legal battles that divided Depp's empire even further. His longtime management company, TMG, accused him of being financially irresponsible, prompting Depp to sue them in retaliation. Through these court disputes, the most private details of his extravagant lifestyle and mounting losses were exposed, surprising both fans and industry insiders. The man known for disappearing into intricate roles suddenly found himself the defendant in a harsh courtroom drama of his own life. Hollywood, once warm to him, turned cold as debt and failing business alliances grew more visible. Major projects were delayed or became unviable altogether. Studios stopped calling, and his once favorite name slowly lost its value. Depp faced the cruel truth that the entertainment world allows people to rise and fall with ruthless speed, and those who once cheered him on could abandon him just as quickly, leaving him marginalized and alone. Yet he viewed this collapse as the beginning of his bounce back. Determined not to let the ashes of the past bury him, he committed to reclaiming his power, financially and emotionally. The fall from the pedestal was steep, but it marked the start of a confrontation that strengthened his resolve to endure. In losing his fortune, he gained a harsh but genuine insight into what was truly of real value. Yet no personal battle is ever fought without its accompaniments of the heart. And for Johnny Depp, love was a force as passionate as it was destructive. Love and loss. Johnny Depp's relationships unfolded like chapters in a turbulent story, filled with passion, upheaval, and deep emotional cost. Each romance revealed a different part of him, tender yet volatile, loyal yet haunted. Love often brought hope, but just as often delivered heartbreak, shaping the man he would become. His first marriage, to makeup artist Lori Ann Allison in 1983, was brief but important. At a time when Depp was struggling with failed music dreams and unsure steps into acting, Lori offered stability and belief. Though their marriage ended quietly after 2 years, he later viewed it as a necessary bridge between obscurity and the path that would soon define his life. Afterward came several influential relationships. Sherilyn Fenn, Jennifer Grey, and Winona Ryder brought warmth, joy, and connection. His romance with Winona especially captured the public's imagination. Intense, youthful, and seemingly magical. But Hollywood's relentless glare strained them, and their breakup left Depp devastated. His Winona Forever tattoo, later altered to Wino Forever, became a symbol of both heartbreak and his attempt to face pain with humor. In the 1990s, his fiery relationship with supermodel Kate Moss became one of the decade's most talked-about romances. Their chemistry was undeniable, their lifestyle wild and glamorous. But beneath the public fascination was volatility and exhaustion. Their breakup served as another lesson that even the most passionate love can burn too brightly to last. These relationships left lasting marks, teaching Depp about vulnerability, consequence, and the complicated line between refuge and turmoil. He later admitted he often loved too deeply, too quickly, and that his search for peace was tied to internal struggles as much as romantic ones. His most stable and meaningful partnership began in 1998 with French actress and singer Vanessa Paradis. Their 14-year relationship offered calm and privacy far from Hollywood's noise. Together, they raised 2 children, Lily Rose and Jack, building a life grounded in simplicity rather than spectacle. For Depp, it was a rare sanctuary. But even this quiet, steady love eventually fractured. Their 2012 separation, though respectful and free of public scandal, left Depp profoundly shaken. Friends recalled his withdrawal into solitude, with his art taking on darker tones. Losing Vanessa felt like losing a compass, leaving him drifting at a vulnerable point in his life. For Johnny Depp, love has been both salvation and struggle. These romantic storms shaped not only his emotional world but also the personal trials that would follow. Tests of identity, endurance, and the fragile hope of beginning again. The bonds of the heart had set the stage, but the real battleground was soon to be found in the spotlight's unforgiving glare. Fighting back and finding peace. Johnny Depp's darkest chapter unfolded during a highly publicized legal battle that tested everything he had endured. After his split from Amber Heard, accusations and counterclaims turned into a 6-year storm lived under a global spotlight. The legal turmoil stripped away the shine of stardom and exposed a man worn by pain, confusion, and betrayal. Yet, through it all, Depp refused to be silenced or defined by scandal. The year 2018 marked the turning point for Heard, who went on to write an op-ed for the Washington Post, which in turn led to a defamation lawsuit that was primarily concerned with Depp's struggle to win back his good name. Although he was not referred to in the article, he likened its influence to a devastating blow to his life and career. The private tragedy turned into a public spectacle as the 2022 trial in Virginia was attended by millions. Despite the jury's ruling in his favor, it was a great victory. Still, the quality of life and the years he lost couldn't be returned to him. Depp, after the lengthy litigation, rediscovered his passion for music, and this time around, he was able to find a partner in his longtime friend Jeff Beck. Playing in front of a live audience was less of a need for acknowledgement and more of a way to heal, a venue to show his hurt, strength, and transformation. The spectators no longer considered him merely a movie star. They acknowledged him as a fighter. Depp lives a quietly centered life full of art, reflection, and reconstruction in his 60s. His estates in Somerset and France are the places where he gets the best of both worlds, calm and creativity. Painting has become one of his means of expression and has brought him widespread acknowledgement, just as he does with his portraits and tributes. Now, his guitars and film memorabilia signify gratitude instead of vanity. Family has always been the most important thing to him. His kids, Lily Rose and Jack, are the constant rays of light in his life, supporting him through the difficult times that lasted for years. Depp has also been very quiet about his generosity, giving away millions without anyone knowing to causes that are very important to him. So now, at the age of 62, Johnny Depp does not appear as a fallen star, but rather as a man who has changed through the endurance, humility, and courage to start over again. Johnny Depp's journey reminds us that no matter how fierce the storm, the human spirit refuses to break. His path is marked by survival, transformation, and a quiet resilience that speaks louder than any headline. If this story moved you, give the video a like, subscribe for more powerful journeys, and watch the next video shown on the screen to keep the inspiration going.